Hello, everyone. My name is Christopher Harvey. I'm the Executive Director for Student Success with Online Learning and Services. Welcome to our Titan Thursday event. This week, or this month, we're doing test anxiety and stress management. We have a guest speaker, Jackie Turner, who will be talking about that subject for you. Before we begin, we want to go just over a little bit of some of the way these webinars work. First of all, if you want to ask questions using your microphone or webcam during the presentation, you can click the Raise Your Hand button, and we will notify you when you are live with our presenter. We'll try to take them in queue and order, and we'll get everybody set up, and you'll have an opportunity to speak directly with Jackie. If you want to submit questions via text, you can do that by clicking the event chat button and posting your questions, and then we will pull them up and present them to Jackie so she can respond. Finally, if you are with us here right now, please stay with us to the end. We are going to give out a $20 Target gift card. Just for being on the call tonight, you'll get a chance to have one entry. For those of you that actually participate in the call tonight, if you do submit a text question that we take, you'll be able to get one additional entry. If you join us via audio or video using your microphone or webcam, we'll give you two additional opportunities to add on to that. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and turn the presentation over.
All right. So welcome and thank you for joining us. I am Jackie Turner and I am with Baycare. And we're going to talk a little bit about test anxiety and just some of the struggles you might face in and out of the classroom with these performance situations. So everyone has anxiety, and that's okay. That's just your body's natural response to stressors that are happening in life. It doesn't mean that you're a poor student or that you can't achieve. It just means that this is really important to you and you want to do the best that you can, and sometimes that can be challenging. So it's finding your own inner strength to be able to overcome those challenges. So like we said, everyone has anxiety. Sometimes it's public speaking. Sometimes it could be performance of something like a play or sports. And again, like we were talking about today, sometimes it's those test-taking situations. But the number one thing to remember is it's okay, and you've got this. Just some little thoughts I wanted to share with y'all tonight is that remind yourself, I am inherently powerful and have the ability to control myself and elements of the situation by maintaining an awareness of the power of choices. You can choose to be anxious. You can choose to let that piece of paper kick your rear, or you can then choose to kick it back to them. So keep that optimism. So remind yourself that my confidence and hope that my reservoir of emotional and intellectual energy will pull me through when things get tough. We always hear about that adrenaline rush that would happen if a child was stuck under a car and that tiny little mom is able to lift the car up because she has that inner strength and just that drive to do that. You can do that same thing on that emotional level of getting yourself through those stressful situations. So what you're stressing out. And it's so frustrating when you hear people saying, oh, just relax. I'm thinking, oh, well, why didn't I think of that? Gee whiz, if it was only that easy. So some steps you can do to get yourself through those moments, because you're stressing out, is first, acknowledge your stress. Recognize, yes, why am I all of a sudden sweating? Why is my heart racing? Why does my stomach feel like it's in knots? Sometimes we have those physical reactions to those stressors. So acknowledge that, yes, this is a stressful situation. And identify your triggers. What is triggering that? Is it the quiet of the room? Is it the paper shuffling? Is it all of the pressure you've put on yourself to achieve a certain grade, to get into a certain program? What are the things that are triggering you? So then that way you can then identify ways that you can help cope with those. And one thing to remember is to remind yourself of life's good stories. So you might have flunked that test. Or you might be afraid that you're going to do it again, that you're going to fail something again, or you're not going to achieve as well as you have. But there have been times in your life that you have achieved. You have done some really great things. Otherwise, you wouldn't be sitting here in that classroom to begin with. So reflect back on those good things that have happened, and not just academically in the sense of test anxiety, but you can think back to some good times that you've had with family or friends, some other achievements that you've had in life. Just remember that there are good things in your life. It's not all the gloom and doom negative of what you're facing with that particular situation. And again, with that physical and emotional connection, if you just, sometimes you need to let it out physically, get moving, practice breathing exercises, which we can discuss, take a walk, stretch, whatever you physically can do to help relieve yourself. If it's anything as mild as taking a walk or doing a little yoga, if it's something as intense of sprinting or engaging in some harder cardio, whatever works for you. And someone has typed in a message, and that's something I'd encourage y'all to do. Type in messages, do it audio, however the heck you want to ask questions as we go along, please do that. So someone's asking if breathing techniques can help calm down any test anxiety, and they've heard it helps. Absolutely. Breathing techniques are very beneficial, not just with test anxiety, but just any kind of stressful situation. And one of the great things to do with that is Google it. Go on YouTube and look up something called mindfulness. Mindfulness is a really cool practice that you can engage in that just helps you focus on your breathing, focus on being present. Put in your earbuds, play the YouTube videos, and you don't have to watch the YouTube videos. It's just where you're listening to them play. So there's some really cool mindfulness and breathing, guided breathing and guided meditation videos out there. They don't take long. It's something that could be just a couple minutes that can help you regain your focus. And if you do that before the test, and when I say before the test, I mean days and weeks before the test, so it becomes kind of part of your routine, then you'll be comfortable with it. So then that way, when you're in that test environment and you feel like you're starting to freak out and you need to focus on your breathing, you'll have some of that guided meditation already in mind. Something else someone's asking about, how much sleep would you recommend to get the night before a test? I'm so glad that you brought up sleep, because that's one of those things that, again, is connecting that physical with that emotional. Getting a good night's rest is very important, like our moms always told us to do. You're the one that knows your body best. That's where I'd rather see someone put the books away, get a good night's sleep. You know, if it's 7, 8, 9 hours, you know what your body needs. That's going to do you a whole heck of a lot of good, a lot more than staying up all night cramming. So, and I think we had another question here. They're scrolling through. So if you don't have any good stories in life, you know what? I don't know who you are, but I think just the fact that you are a student and you have set a goal for yourself to achieve something in your life through this academic journey that you're taking, you have a good story. You have a goal, and having a goal and having something to look forward to is something that can be really powerful and a very strong motivator. So I don't know who you are, but I think you're a pretty darn good person if you're already here. And another question we have, does it help to associate stressful activities that are academic related to good stressors during tests? Let me make sure, I'm going to kind of read that question again and make sure I'm understanding what we're talking about here. Does it help to associate stressful activities that are academic related to good stressors during tests? I have to say, I'm not quite sure what direction we're talking about here. I don't know if my buddies in the room can maybe help shed some light on that.
That was a question from Ariel. So Ariel, if you could follow up a little bit more and help explain what we were looking at there, we can return back to that.
Yeah, don't want to leave you hanging, Ariel. So if you want to buzz in at some time here. And someone's saying, what can I do beyond taking medication to help prevent or lower the physical symptoms of performance anxiety? That physical reaction that I'm talking about. Again, going back to the mindfulness practices, positive physical activity, whether it is exercise. And when I say exercise, I don't mean that you have to go there and, do a spin class or some, hardcore weightlifting. Even if it's just going outside and taking a walk, doing some stretching exercises, focus on those breathing exercises, and also be mindful of your diet. What goes in your body? Are you putting some good fuel into yourself? Because I know when I was a student and would sit there and I'm cramming and I'm studying like crazy and I'm just sitting for a long period of time and just gorging on a bunch of junk food, I felt, pretty cruddy, and it has an effect. So we have a question here. I studied relentlessly for a test. I was familiar and comfortable with material, but when it came time to take the test, I went completely blank. Why does this happen, and what can I do to prevent this from happening? Great question. You knew the material. You knew it. It was that environment. So I'm going to actually forward on a couple of these slides here to I'm going to skip around here to see if there's something that we can get to that might help with that. Okay, so during the test. So on talking about that actual test time in that moment, get comfy. Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Maybe, dress appropriately, that you can do that. Make sure that you have eaten, but haven't eaten too much. And when you get that test, sometimes what I've done is I've flipped that page over and I've written down things that I knew. Math was not my strong suit, so sometimes those formulas get jumbled in your head. So no, I wouldn't even look at the test. I would flip it over and jot down things that I knew. So at least I had something down that I felt like I had a go-to. If you go blank, skip to the next question. You don't have to answer questions in order. You don't have to answer a whole section before going to another one. Something that I encourage folks to do is if you have a test where certain questions or certain sections are worth a certain amount of points, don't obsess and freak out over that one section that is worth 5% of the test. If those questions you're drawing a complete blank on, that's cool. It's okay. We have a question here about someone has some health issues, and so they take classes online. When I have to physically go take my exam, it stresses me out more because the proctors and other students are aware I have student accessibility. I have never done an at-home proctored exam. Would you recommend this to alleviate stress in my situation? It couldn't hurt. It's certainly not a bad idea to try something new, see if that helps you, if it works out better or worse or the same. And talking about the realizing what's happening with other folks in the room. I'm trying to remember the order of my slides, so thank y'all for your patience. Tune them out. Just as you are stressed and worried and anxious and nervous about the test and trying to remember all the answers and the questions and the facts and keeping everything straight, all those other people around you are doing the same thing. So half of them probably don't even realize that you are the person who hasn't been in the classroom all the time. They are more wrapped up in their own head. I have this here with if we remember when Michael Phelps during the Olympics, how he would get in his corner and he'd have his earbuds in and he's listening to his music and he's focusing, he's channeling his thoughts on his next race. So do the same thing. I mean, you don't have to have the Michael Phelps scowl, but you just avoid speaking to those other students or so-called friends, could be in or out of the classroom. Those who haven't prepared, or maybe the ones who say that they have completely got this, they've aced it, those ones that are a little too braggy on their confidence, anyone who's expressing any kind of negativity, or just doing any sort of actions or words that are going to distract you from your own preparation. You don't need that in your life. Someone's asking about help with tense muscles. I'm all about the yoga and the stretching, and it doesn't have to be anything formal. You don't have to go to a class and pay money and wear the weird pants and have the mat. You can, again, just YouTube it and get comfy in your living room and practice some stretching exercises. It's great that you realize that your muscles are tense because it means that you're aware of your physical self. Okay, we have a question here about taking a test online. What do you think of listening to some smooth music while taking tests? It's funny you mention that because personally, I do enjoy that. when I am working on something that I need some sort of intense focus on, I will listen to classical music. I'm not a classical music kind of person. I have no clue what I'm listening to. I just leave that up to Pandora. But I have it kind of, it's a very soft background noise, and it works for me. So I did a little bit of online research myself to see what the experts thought about it. And there's different schools of thoughts. And at the end of the day, it came to what works for you. So it's something you can try out if you wanted to experiment with different kind of playlists or different amounts of volume, different settings and situations. I've gotten myself to the point now that I do have a few playlists that I know that are like my go-to when I want to concentrate and focus on something. And those playlists are completely different than the ones that I'm playing when I'm cleaning my house. So I don't advise, really blaring some pretty hardcore music when you're trying to study. It can be a little counterproductive. So we have a question here. Would it help to leave little sticky notes with positive messages to at least help reduce anxiety and boost confidence? Absolutely. I've done that myself. And not just, positive messages, funny messages. If you've got a buddy who you kind of click with, that you share funny memes with and quotes and just you've got this kind of moments, whatever works for you, whatever floats your boat. Find your own motivation in there. And I love this question. Would you say it's better to study in an environment that is similar to the testing room, or does it not have to be too much of an impact on the mind or body? A lot of folks, that similarity does help. You want to be comfortable when you're studying and when you're taking a test. So if you know that that room has a particularly uncomfortable chair and it seems to be a distraction for you, if it helps you to kind of expose yourself to that chair, or heck, I remember when I was in grad school, we had these horrible chairs and one of my classmates had some back issues and she would bring in this cushion pillow thing, and we all were supportive and thought that was great. Whatever works for you. Because remember, at the end of the day, no matter what someone says or, any snarky comments, it's not their grades on your transcripts. So you do what works for you. Let's see what we hear. I know the material when the professors ask them verbally, but when I take the written test, I fail. Why is that? What do you recommend? Yeah, and it just, sometimes things click with you better with the verbal than with writing. So if you feel that the verbal is more beneficial for you, if you wanted to record or listen over and over to the lessons, the concepts, the terms, but then while you're doing it, also practice writing it. I know I've had some really intensive exams that I've had to take myself that were some really long essays, and I knew the general question and concepts that were going to be covered. So I wrote over and over and over. It was almost as if like you would memorize a speech maybe, where I had memorized and could write these messages over and over and over. So I felt more comfortable getting what I was hearing down on physical paper. So we have a question. When you go blank on a test, does the information sometimes come back when you have studied for it? Yeah, it's that anxiety, because you know it. You just are letting that anxiety overwhelm and control you. So that's where let's really focus on those breathing exercises in advance. Ooh, this is cool. He's typing in live question. So what does this mean?
We are going to go ahead and, oh wait, we had somebody and we lost them. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So, and I'll skip around here. So we have, this is an interesting one. Any tip for an alumni who are experiencing anxiety due to new leadership roles, requirements, and deadlines at a new job? Also tips for mindfulness at a new job. Can you scroll? Also tips for mindfulness at a new job if you tend to overthink situations. And that's where a lot of anxiety can come from, is that overthinking. So we're talking about when taking those tests to read those directions carefully. So, and focusing on going to the question of talking about preparing when you have that new job, new class, new subject matter. whatever something new is that's uncomfortable, that can make you anxious of how to work best with it, preparation, that is going to build your confidence. So it's developing those good study habits and strategies. And study habits and strategies also translates into the work world with doing things like prioritizing which tasks you're going to tackle in what order, how long you spend on certain things that maybe you could collaborate with others versus taking on yourself, identifying what you know and what you don't know. And something that helps is taking that time at the end of the day before you leave your desk to write down the things that you have to tackle and deal with in the morning. So that way when you come in tomorrow morning, you already know what's in front of you and what you're going to be working on. And that's part of that time management, talking about identifying those distractions. Those could be other people, it could be other tasks. Schedule yourself time to study, just like you schedule time to go to work, to go to school, to handle other obligations that we have. Set yourself time in there to study. And in doing that, organize all of your materials. Make sure you have the books, the notes, everything that you're going to need, the earbuds to listen to those lectures, whatever supplies that you need. It's handy to have them all laid out in front of you, along with some water and healthy snacks to keep you going. So we have a question here. I'm going to transfer to a university in the fall. Congratulations. Though I've done well on tests at SPC, I'm worried that tests at university level might be harder, especially with the new environment. What can I do to lessen this anxiety? Well, you know what? You have already done this because you were in high school or somewhere else or had something going on before you came to SPC. And SPC was a whole other new, scary, confusing environment. And you obviously have accomplished that and conquered those challenges very well to be able to be transferring. So do the preparation. You might have to maybe crack down a little more on the study habits and the time preparation and the time management. So that way you'd rather be ahead of the game than scrambling there at the end. So that way you're already recognizing that things are probably going to be more challenging at that higher level. So that's good that you're recognizing that, hey, this is probably going to be harder. So go in there with that mindset of saying, this is going to be harder, but I know I can do it. So I'm going to up my game on making sure that I am organized and on task and can handle those new challenges. Okay, so we have all I can hear in my head is the professor's words that most students fail the test and only 10% will get an A. You're the 10%. Tell yourself you're the 10%. I generally do not have test anxiety, but this really is bothering me. Any suggestions? We're going to go to Michael Phelps. So I'm calling your professor out. Your professor. They are that student or so-called friend who is putting all that noise in your head that is distracting you from achieving your goal. So in something interesting about the question here that's phrased is saying most students fail the test and only 10% get an A. Well, as we know, there's a difference between failing and an A. There's a whole heck of a lot in between. So just focus on what you can do, and you can do that. So yeah, tune them out. Put on your earbuds like Michael Phelps when the professor's kind of saying that, your emotional earbuds, if you will, because he probably doesn't appreciate you putting earbuds in class. Someone's asking, does it help to wear comfortable clothing? Heck yeah, break out the yoga pants. You do not want to feel too hot, too cold, too stuffy, whatever, when you're studying, and certainly in that test environment. If you know that room has a tendency to be hot or cold, dress accordingly. Bring yourself a hoodie to put on or off to get yourself comfortable. It's eliminating one more distraction. That it's something that you can control. So we have here, I always get so worried when I'm going to run out of time, and I get so nervous. What can I do to fix this? Time management comes in during the test time, where read those directions carefully, and when you're reading the instructions and you're looking at the different sections of the test, this is when you budget your test taking time and where you're going to put your efforts and energy. So if here's this 50 question true-false section and it's worth 10% of the test, I'm not going to be as stressed about that as I am that essay question that's worth 60%. So put your efforts and your time into the parts that matter the most, into those big things. So almost like budgeting your money, where you have your paycheck and you have your bills. What do you do first? You got to pay your rent. So you pay your rent before you get your nails done. Same kind of idea when you're taking your test, is to budget that time. Someone's asking me, am I eligible to get student accessibility services due to test anxiety? Maybe if I wasn't on a strict time limit, I wouldn't be so stressed. That's a great question. What I advise you to do is to contact the accessibility services office on your campus, or if you're an online student, I'm going to defer to the fantastic gentleman in the room as to what direction they can go for accessibility services for online students, if anyone knows about that.
That to speak to the advisor, we can put them in touch with one that's on the campus.
Perfect.
But basically,
okay, great. So if you are not able to get to a campus to speak to an accessibility services officer, then you can speak to your academic advisor, and he or she can point you in the right direction with that. Because that is something that that they can walk you through as to what the process is for those. So let me just make sure that we have covered some things here. These are fantastic questions, folks. Really glad about this. We're talking about those final hours and minutes before the test. So this is, it's almost like that 24-hour plan, 24 hours before the test, give or take. Make yourself a plan. Know what you're going to wear, because we talked about being comfortable and eating and sleeping. So almost kind of get yourself a plan of attack. I'm going to wear this. It is clean. It's laid out. I have my water bottle. I have a little baggie of snacks. I've got my supplies. So we're not scrambling, and 2 minutes before the test is supposed to begin, I'm at the bookstore trying to buy a Scantron, probably showing my age by saying that. But making sure you have all of your supplies, everything that you need with you. Eat a good meal, something that's going to make you feel good, not a bag of Doritos. Avoid cramming. Again, if it's between an extra hour of studying and an extra hour of sleep, I'm going to go for sleep, because you need to give your mind that time to take a break, to rest, to digest all that wonderful information you've been filling it full of over those last several days of studying. Take a walk. Park, arrive to school. If you're taking a class, a test in person, arrive earlier than maybe you normally would. Park further away. So take a little time to walk to the room. Get that exercise in there. Stop thinking about all those things. When you're walking through the parking lot, don't be walking through the parking lot with your flashcards. And again, focus on that breathing. Go back to those YouTube videos on mindfulness. So it's looking like the gentlemen are going to have me wrapping up here.
All right. Well, we'd like to thank Jackie for joining us tonight. And we appreciate all of you attending. You really kept us going this session. I think we have more questions this session than any other session we've had in the past. So Jackie did have a perfect PowerPoint all laid out, and we spent the entire time on questions, but hopefully we addressed everything you wanted to ask. So we're now going to go ahead and move forward into the random drawing. This is the first time we've done this, so we're trying a new way here. Excuse me. We're going to have everybody go ahead in the chat window, enter a number between 1 and 200. We already have a number selected, so we know what the winning one's going to be, but you guys all enter a number. The one that gets closest to the number we picked, I will go ahead and send a private message to get your email contact information. We'll make arrangements to get the card sent to you. So if you can, go ahead, start planning in your, okay, we got the numbers coming in now. Oh, and if you did submit a chat question, which many of you did, we're going to go on the honor system here because there's more of you than we expected. Go ahead, and for those of you that submitted a question and was addressed on camera tonight, go ahead and enter a second number. Can we get her PowerPoint? Yes, we will go ahead. Actually, the entire video, and we'll go ahead and find a way to post the PowerPoint. And I think she has some additional resources.
Yeah, there was something, I don't know if you can still see the screen or not. There's a little thing called twisted thinking, and this is something we all do. We know we're not supposed to do it, but we do it anyways. And that's okay. It's because we're human. So just a little handout that I have about twisted thinking. It's things like all or nothing thinking, that black and white, the overgeneralization. I always do horrible at math. Maybe you're not the best at math, but is it always horrible? Probably not. So a lot of this twisted thinking, these things that we do. So it's being aware of twisted thinking that can help you conquer it. So when you find yourself doing some twisted thinking, you can say, whoa, wait a minute, I'm doing that again. I need to stop, take a step back, check myself. So there's a little flyer that I have about twisted thinking that I'll ask the gentleman to post along with the PowerPoint, because yeah, we were a little all over the place, but that's okay. Because these were some of the challenges that we often face. It's that physical and emotional manifestations of that anxiety and stress that we often encounter, be it the stomach is churning, the heart's pounding. We can't make a decision, can't decide whether or not we're going to wear blue socks or brown socks. Something as inconsequential as that has just got us all confused when we are facing those stressful moments.
All right, so let me go through it again here, but it does look like out of everyone, our actual number is 121, and I believe Samantha, if I saw, had 124 in here somewhere. Why can't I find you now? Again, there's so many people participating today. Samantha, 125 was in fact the closest number. So I'm going to send a private message to her, and we'll make arrangements to get her sent the Target gift card. For everyone else, we thank you for attending and want to let you know that our next session in January, we won't have one because we're doing the last Thursday of the month and we're not doing one over Christmas. So our next one will be Foundation Scholarship Application Information Session on January 25th at 6 p.m. The Foundation Scholarship Application Information Session title isn't all that exciting, but I would say a better description is Get Free Cash, basically to help you pay for your college. So yeah, I would go ahead and we'll have the information up. Again, this recording will be available on the Y Live site. We'll also be posting it in Workplace for those familiar with that and other areas that we can find. And we appreciate you all for attending.